Well, we have just witnessed Anthony Joshua lose his heavyweight belts to Oleksandr Usyk, Carl Froch. We just heard there from Dillian Whyte, you know, like you said, the boxing purists would have known what we saw from Usyk tonight. And for him, the confidence that he went into that ring with from the jump was phenomenal.
It was. The first thing that Dillian Whyte said there that he pointed out on and he picked up on was Anthony Joshua lacked ambition. And he was like a deer in the headlights from the start, and he never wanted to get going. That's not just because he would have been nervous and he'd have known the quantity of what was in front of him in Usyk. That would have been because of the movement of Usyk and the feints and the foot movement, left, right, constantly letting you think, constantly feinting you, constantly ducking and diving. AJ couldn't get set, but like Dillian Whyte said, he needed to have a go. After round 4, after round 5 when that's happening, you can't go into the second half of the fight and let Usyk get away with that. You've got to push your weight on him. He did it at times. He threw the body shot, he leaned on him, he threw that hook over the top, he threw the jab and the left cross on the right hand, and you know, he started to look like he was closing the gap and getting in the fight, but then
it's too late already by then.
Too late, and then he stopped doing it though.
Yeah,
so was that because Usyk is so good and he was hitting him and hurting him, or was it because Anthony Joshua just didn't have it in his tank tonight? I don't know. I don't buy into that. I just think that Usyk was too good. It was a masterclass in there.
But the thing is, everything Usyk did and all of the problems that Joshua had, those were things that Derek Del Boy Chisora told us on 5 Live. Those are things that Derek Del Boy Chisora told AJ behind closed doors. And more importantly, those were things that Tony Bellew, in 3 visits to private sparring sessions, detailed to Joshua. He detailed it. He sent him the memo. He sent him the playbook, if you want to use an NFL expression, in this great NFL stadium in North London. He sent him the playbook on how to beat Usyk, and what's more, he sent him the playbook on how not to be beat by Usyk. And Anthony Joshua seems to have thrown it all out the window. I'd like to have seen one thing here, Jeanette. I'd like to have seen Joshua's jab tonight. He just threw the jab straight out. All the time, straight out, like the guy in front of him was 6'7" and standing in front of him. He never once tried to throw the shot down, a nasty spearing jab. Go and have a look at Muhammad Ali. He never threw a jab ever, not once, or Larry Holmes, never ever threw a jab like Joshua threw tonight. Every single one of their punches, some of the greatest jabbers in boxing history, were shots that are turned and they come down with a little bit of something in them, a bit of snap in them. I tell you what, I hate to say it, but I'm a bit disappointed tonight. We shouldn't say that because he's going to go off to hospital, no doubt, Joshua, for a check. That's unconfirmed. That's just my speculation. I'm a little bit disappointed in the performance tonight, Carl.
I think when Anthony Joshua watches that back and when his team watch that back, they'll feel the same. But being in there and watching it from ringside is 2 totally different things. I can vouch for that firsthand. Sometimes I watch fights back and I think, why didn't I throw the right hand to the body? Why didn't I lean on the guy more? Why didn't I put pressure on him? Mainly in my amateurs, you know, I didn't get beat much as a professional. Kester was a close points one and Ward kind of outpointed me. But when you watch stuff back, when you think and you go back to your changing rooms, a loser, and when Anthony Joshua looks back and re-watches it, I think he will be disappointed that he didn't start faster and he didn't get going sooner, because that's why in the end he couldn't turn that screw and step on the gas, because from round 8 right through to round 12, doesn't matter how fit you are and how much training you've done, you're too tired to really go for a massive finish. And I'm contradicting myself from my fight with Jermaine Taylor, because I finished it strong in the end, but I found something there from the heavens. He's in front of Oleksandr Usyk, who's fresh and ready to go to war. He could probably do that for 15 rounds, Usyk. Yeah. Anthony Joshua, there's nothing you can say really other than the better man on the night won there, and the better man on the night is a real class act. Oleksandr Usyk deserves that victory tonight.
Do you know, in the week, George Groves said to Steve Bunce, this is the one fight that I fear for AJ, more so than anything else up against Klitschko, Ron. Tony Bellew said the one thing about Usyk is about his judgment, and tonight we saw that, didn't we? He was able to judge that fight from start to finish and then outpoint AJ.
He controlled the ring space, he controlled the tempo, but we knew that he was capable of doing all of those things, as the world champions you've just alluded to mentioned there. Everybody who follows this sport knew that Usyk had the capability to do that, because as we've established, as we said in our preview, as we've been saying throughout the week, he is a better boxer. What does Anthony Joshua have in his favor? Physicality. An 18 3/4 pound weight advantage, a 4-inch reach advantage, a 3-inch height advantage, but he wasn't able to turn those physical attributes into advantages here tonight. For my money, trying to operate as he did, that's playing right into Oleksandr Usyk's hands. And he had that knack of doing like Sugar Ray Leonard, like Muhammad Ali, his predecessors as Olympic champions, winning the final 10-20 seconds of a round, finishing strong. He would sprint off his stall and start strong as well. Very difficult night for Anthony Joshua. And again, we mentioned it in commentary, he just appeared to be operating at a single pace. We saw him try something adaptive when he went to the body, but other than that, there was very little variety in the work that he put forth tonight. And again, we have to credit Oleksandr Usyk for his presence in negating Anthony Joshua from trying anything different, but he's going to be very disappointed when he continues to just ruminate on the defeat that he suffered here at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium tonight.
And just watching on the screens now, we can see some slow motion shots of Anthony Joshua exiting the middle here of the stadium, disappointed, crestfallen. Look, Steve,
he looks broken there.
He does. And what's going to happen now? There's going to be a post-mortem, isn't there? We're going to have to look and see and say, what next now for Anthony Joshua? It's such a hard thing, isn't it?
Well, there'll be a post-mortem. I mean, the instant thing is Eddie Hearn nearly snapped my hand off when I held the mic up to ask him if there was a rematch clause. So there is a rematch clause. So we will get a rematch. I'm looking at Joshua's eyes there and cheeks, and I don't see the type of damage that could end up being some sort of orbital bone damage. I don't see it. There didn't look anything like that. He may have had his vision slightly obscured, both left and right eye, from about round 6 or 7. But I'm not looking, in my opinion, I'm not looking at a guy that's got damaged eye. So I think we're back here or somewhere else in April or May. Let's not bring in the F word, not just yet. Let's use that. Let's use that when we sum up. I mean, you have to feel disappointment for Anthony Joshua, and you have to feel disappointment in some ways for what we were expecting tonight. We were expecting more. We wanted more. After the first couple of rounds, I thought, okay, this is nice. He's moving around. Maybe we could see that. But there was a point when as Dillian summed it up perfectly. Why didn't he just have a go? Just have a bigger go? Because even in the last 5 or 6 rounds, he still wasn't trying to let the right hand go. He wasn't letting the right hand go. The left hook, which he threw in about round 2 or 3, he wasn't stepping across and throwing that again. The body shots, and they were good body shots, but they weren't part of what he was doing. He just managed to find himself in a position where he let a body shot go. He wasn't trying to bring the hands down to throw it. I mean, there were so many things he wasn't trying to do. And Carl's absolutely right. It's easy from here.
And to add to what you're saying there, Steve,
it's easy from here.
When you're saying have a go, we see his face on the screens because we can obviously see what's going off. And when AJ walks out, he's leaving the stadium, he's not badly marked up. He's not caught. He's not bleeding into the eye. His nose isn't broke. His teeth aren't hanging out. These things can happen in boxing matches. He doesn't look physically wrecked.
No.
So there's kind of no excuse to not just throw the kitchen sink at Usyk in the last 2 rounds. And that's what Dillian Whyte was saying. And I totally agree with him, to be honest.
Ron.
Well, we referenced, Steve, World Series boxing, right, where Oleksandr Usyk was operating amongst the giants of 91 kilogram plus super heavyweights. He went 6-0 in that competition against fellow Olympians. Anthony Joshua said in the build-up, well, that was 8 years ago, back in 2012, 2013. That's irrelevant now. But despite the similarity in their careers from 2011, where they both won world amateur medals, then Olympic gold, what we have to realize, Anthony Joshua only began boxing in 2008 when his cousin and staff member Ben Gayema took him down to the gym at Finchley Boxing Club. In 2008, Oleksandr Usyk was at the Olympic Games in Beijing. So the man's had 350 amateur fights. He's only lost 15. All of that experience was on display tonight, and Anthony Joshua couldn't deal with the ring craft that Oleksandr Usyk brought to his game. But then again, he wasn't able to employ his physical assets either.
The ring craft, the intelligence, the mentality. Just think about it, Carl, what it has taken for Usyk to be able to move up from cruiserweight to heavyweight, one of the hardest divisions in boxing, just mentally to be able to switch it up and do what he did tonight.
Well, first of all of the attributes that Ronald spoke about there, and which Usyk possesses, he does in abundance. The way to negate all of that is to get on top of him and hit him with your big, heavy, hard 18 stone plus body, or 17 and a half stone, whatever he weighed. He was 20 pounds, 19, 20 pounds, the heavier man. He's bigger, he's stronger, he's taller. Stick it on him, hit him, punch through him,
but it didn't look like that tonight. Why? Why didn't it look like that?
To me, Anthony Joshua didn't have a go. When it got difficult, when he was behind on the cards, he knew he would have been behind. Rob McCracken's experience. Rob McCracken would have said key words like, you're going to have to step on it now, you're going to have to, start working, start throwing the punches. Me and Steve Bunce, we could hear it between rounds. He wanted him to work more, he wanted him to get going, and he never really got going. So we just have to give that credit to Oleksandr Usyk for just shutting him out.
But go on, Ron.
But there's also, as you would know, Carl, once you get it, sometimes it can be difficult to get yourself out of that rut, out of that groove. He wasn't quite following Usyk around the ring, but it was almost as though he was moving into some type of trance.
But that's why he should have never been there. From round one, he should have stamped his authority. He should have never been 6 rounds behind, stuck in mud, mentally thinking, oh no, what's happening? It's all going wrong. Because you're right, it's hard to change the pattern of the fight then.
Yes,
it's too little, too late then.
And what happens with Usyk is once he finds a rhythm, and that's what we've said all week. This is what's so annoying here. I should have sat here 90 minutes ago and predicted an Usyk whitewash, because he told us what he would do. Derek Del Boy Chisora told us what he could do. Bellew told us what he could do. But then they always said, but Joshua will get to him, because Joshua will go through him, he'll walk through him, he'll let his hands go. And we asked the question to Derek, or Jeanette asked Dillian Whyte, at what point did Dillian realise that it was going to be a hard night? Let me ask you, at what point did you realise, Carl, that it was a lost cause tonight for Joshua?
It was like round 5-6, which is a midway, because after round 6, doesn't matter how fit and strong, how many hill sprints you've done, how many rounds of sparring, you become flat-footed, because we're all human beings. And Anthony Joshua is a big human being. And after round 6, he will slow down. He will start to sit down on his feet and plant his feet. He's not able to then change the pattern and change the momentum of the fight, other than sticking it on him.
Big shot.
Hitting him with a big shot and pushing him back and getting him in a headlock. Drop the low blow in if you have to. Stick the nut on him. This is a boxing match.
Why didn't he do that once? Why didn't he do anything illegal? He held his head once and Usyk complained. That was it.
I think there was too much respect in there.
I was just about to say, Carl, all week both fighters have been showing each other so much respect. There was no bad blood at all.
You have to throw it out the window sometimes.
And this was the thing. Why didn't it turn into that barnstorm that we know that it should have done?
But again, what is Anthony Joshua saying to us, saying to the public, saying during his media sessions? I'm going to show you how much I have improved. It's almost though he wanted to leave that brawler, that bomber in the past and say, well, look, I'm a consummate boxing heavyweight champion now. But as we said in the build-up and as we said during commentary, if you try and take on Oleksandr Usyk in that department, he's been doing it for longer and he does it more effectively than a comparative neophyte in the game. Remember, Anthony Joshua, despite being champion, compared to Usyk, is learning on the job. And he just wasn't able to revert to those hard-hitting, bludgeoning instincts that he demonstrated earlier in his career.
OK, BBC Radio 5 Live, a night at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium where we've witnessed Anthony Joshua lose on points to Oleksandr Usyk. Alongside me, Steve Bunce, Carl Froch, Ronald McIntosh. We will be returning to the Gulf shortly. We are hoping to hear from Eddie Hearn. We are debating all what went wrong tonight, Carl. And the stadium was packed. The crowd were behind Anthony Joshua. Him not being able to deliver. We could see mentally just how he looked coming out of the stadium. These things take time to recover from, don't they? I
think they do, and I think the manner in which Usyk finished round 12, I think he had one eye on the rematch. I think he was saying, listen, I've outboxed you there for 10, 11 rounds, and now I'm going to stick it on you. I'm going to do to you what you should have done to me early on, and I'm going to make you suffer, because AJ's going to think about that when he goes to sleep at night. He's going to think, I was getting hit hard and often towards the end there. I was almost out on my feet. And he's going to be thinking about that if that rematch happens.
There's a really funny thing, when I asked Eddie Hearn about the rematch, he looked at me and said, don't look at me like that, he said Usyk insisted on it, because Usyk knows how much the rematch will be worth. And you're absolutely right. If we thought this was a big fight, if we thought this dominated our weeks, if we thought this dominated the TV and the radio and the newspapers and the online gang, if we thought that was dominant, how's the rematch going to be? Where can we have that? That's going to be Wembley. We're going in April or May. It's going to be enormous.
And Ron, what this does, it completely is a merry-go-round, isn't it? Of who's fighting who, on what network and where. This now really gets really, really sticky, doesn't it?
Well, again, everybody's talking about the road to undisputed. The most immediate obstacle to the undisputed title is the man who is across the ring from you once that opening bell sounds. Anthony Joshua, I think he and his team deserve immense credit because they could have swerved this. Anthony Joshua's pulling power is such he could have fought Dillian Whyte in a money-spinning rematch that would have created more UK headlines than this contest did. But he took on the #1 mandatory, took on a fellow Olympic champion, the undisputed cruiserweight champion, always a potential banana skin, and it hasn't gone his way tonight.